Hey guys, welcome to Cult Film and Review, the podcast where we discuss the films you love but no one else gets and we see if they still hold up. Tonight, put on your crop tops, pull on your leather boots, and then I want you to get your switchblades ready because we are talking about Faster, Pussycat, Kill. So let's just start the show.
Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex?
Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us this week. We really appreciate it. Just want to say thank you for leaving us reviews if you do. If you don't, please do leave us a review on iTunes. Helps us out a bunch, helps us climb that chart, as we like to say here. And also, tell your friends about us because we're trying to spread the word of the cult. Get it out there. You know what I'm saying?
Jesus.
Is that what we're doing?
That's what we're doing.
Word of the cult.
Word of the cult film.
Of the cult.
Getting it out there. All right, tonight we're talking about Faster, Pussycat, Kill. It was directed by Russ Meyer. Came out in 1965, had a budget of $45,000, was filmed in the U.S., and currently sits with a 73% on Rotten Tomato meters. As always, I am joined by the regular crew of Kyle Smith.
Yo.
Chris Willenbrecht.
What's up?
And Michael Salustio.
Hello, everyone.
If you don't know what this movie's about, it's about three go-go dancers holding a young girl hostage, and they come across a crippled old man living with his two sons in the desert. After learning that he's hiding a sum of cash around, the women start scheming on him pretty much, and that's it.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's about it.
Is that pretty much
You gonna
it?
say pretty much?
Is that pretty much basically it?
I said pretty much earlier,
That
you sons of
basically-
bitches. You goddamn sons
You
of
could
bitches.
you don't have to say anything after the synopsis.
I didn't. I stopped because I said it in the middle.
just for future.
Who hasn't seen this fucking movie before? Because you're starting me off on a tirade, on an angry tirade.
I never seen it before.
Either have I.
Does constant music videos count? Like
What?
if I see it like playing on
No, just music videos.
like
not
at
count.
concerts and shit.
No.
Okay, then I've never seen this film.
I've heard this film before. There's a line that's in a White Zombie song, which
Yeah.
I finally know where that line comes from. So that's like seeing it.
This movie was picked by Chris.
Yep.
Chris, why'd you pick this movie?
I wanted to dig into Russ Myers. He is definitely a quintessential cult film director, more on the exploitation side and sexploitation side, and this is probably one of his most well-known ones, so I wanted to see what you guys thought of it.
There you go. That's it. This is kind of my first foray into this too. I had not seen a Russ Myers film that I know of before this. Not someone that I'm really familiar with.
Would you classify this as sexploitation? Because I wouldn't.
Not this particular film as
I
much
would.
as his other ones.
Wait,
but-
how could this not be
Because
sexploitation?
sexploitation films have copious amounts of sex that happen in it. This film has zero sex. It's more of a boobsploitation film.
But there is sex in it. They just don't show it.
When?
It happens off camera. She
Yeah,
has sex with a guy and then it goes off camera.
Sexploitation happens on camera. And actually, if I remember correctly, I thought nobody had sex in this
No
film.
one had sex.
No,
No one
and
had
there's
sex in this film.
and they actually don't show any boobs in this film, so
No, it's just
So
cleavage.
it's not even that?
No. There's
Just-
zero
it's
sex.
more of an exploitation, but it definitely showcases what he goes on to do, which is
Sure.
more sexploitation.
Is he kind of like, because I don't know, I'm not familiar with the genre too much. Is he kind of like the starter of sexploitation? Maybe this is like an earlier start of that.
I don't know, but it feels like it. 1965 seems pretty early for
I don't
something
know.
like this.
I
Yeah.
mean, you can probably say that about Roger Corman. They were both kind of on the ground floor of exploitation
Yeah.
and different subgenres of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But
What did he ever do?
Yeah, who's the Roger
Yeah,
Corman?
I don't
I'm
know
just
who that
kidding.
is.
I think he wrote a book once. I don't know.
I'm actually more
Sounds right.
I'm actually more familiar with Corman than I am
Yeah, me too.
Myers. No, so I'm excited to talk about a movie from the 60s again, because the last one we did was your pick, right, Mike? It was that's fucking spy one.
Oh, Danger Diabolic.
Danger
Yes, sir.
Diabolic. That was the last one I think we've done from the 60s. So I'm pretty excited to get in this one, especially because this one I feel like kind of breaks the mold of how women were depicted in films. I don't think that I can think of an earlier film, me personally, again, not a big genre that I'm into, but that I can think of where kind of the women are the bad guys and the kick-ass people also. So I'm pretty excited to talk about that.
I can't think of, I mean, I'm sure there's probably a couple, but I feel like this one just did something different. It made the women more raw, and it definitely gave them more of like a dominant personality. And exploited violence like they exploited violence in the film, which can't think of another film that really did it as heavy-handed.
Yeah, a lot of rolling around in this one.
Yeah, no, but that's I think maybe why. I think the fact that there's like that aggressiveness coming from women, it like is what makes people look at this movie like, yeah, women empowerment, like they're badass, they kick ass, they can be the bad guy, you know?
Yeah, especially in like 1965 when you're not really accustomed to it. I feel like now I'm more accustomed to like women being bad guys in films, and maybe this film is the reason why, because it started that. But I'm definitely more accustomed to it now, you know, than I think they probably were in 1965, where it's like, you know, a chick breaks a dude's neck. And they're like, well, no, girl could never do that, bro. Let me tell you right now, girl tries to do that to me, I'll cry and chop her back. So I think it must have been shocking for men to see this film in theaters, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think it was kind of like a hot thing at the time? Like it was kind of like, I think, damn, like, what the fuck?
I think for Russ Myers, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily for his audience at the time, but I definitely think for Russ Myers, yes, it was.
Okay.
I think that is something, and I'm not too familiar with his films, but I think that's something that carries on in his films.
Like women are pretty much like the centerpiece of all of his movies.
Yeah. So, and that's the weird thing too, is like, I don't know if that is, it's weird because like, if you read a lot of the reviews that came out for this film in 1965, a lot of it was like, it's misogynistic, it's this, it's that, it's this. And it's like, basically bashing Russ Myers for making this movie. And then like later on, a lot of people went back and reviewed it again and was like, no, I had it totally wrong.
Yeah.
Like this is total women empowerment.
I only saw what I wanted to see, which was a bunch of dudes being skeezy. But when you really look at it, it's like those dudes never really have the upper hand. It doesn't seem like to me.
Well, everybody's skeezy in this movie.
That's the thing, is you can't separate the good guys from the bad guys. And I think the only good one you could say is Linda, you know, the young girl.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Like, and her boyfriend, I guess he didn't really do anything wrong
Seth
either.
MacFarlane from such shows as Family Guy? You mean that guy?
Is that what he looks
He
like?
looks
he did
just
look just
like
like
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did look a
Just
little bit
like him.
That's
It's
funny.
crazy.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to break out in a song and dance.
I think that's what I like a lot about this movie, though, is there isn't really any socially redeeming characters. They're just kind of all bad, and then the ones that are good are just obnoxious.
Well, the brother that likes to read them books.
Yeah,
There's nothing. He doesn't. He might not be like, like a white angel, white knight, but he's definitely not an asshole.
See, I have my qualms about that, and let's talk about that when we come right back.
What's so exciting about racing against the clock anyway? What's it prove?
Well, it's like a runner trying to improve his time. He trains his body to get the most out of it. I work on this baby the same way, trying to get maximum performance.
What's it mean if you don't beat anybody?
But I do. I beat their time.
Is that how you got cutie pie over there? By beating some guy's time? No, you're not the type. You're the all-American boy, a safety-first Clyde.
Are you trying to say something?
I never try anything. I just do it. Like I don't beat clocks. Just people. Want to try me?
I don't have to prove anything.
All right, guys, we're back, and we are talking about Faster, Pussycat, Kill Kill. Came out in 1965, directed by Russ Meyer. Here's some things that I want to talk about with this movie, and I don't know how Kyle or Mike, you guys feel about this. Did you find the movie a little hard to enjoy? Because I did, because there's not really like a likable character in this film. As far as there's really no one that you can relate to except for maybe the 16-year-old. I forgot her name. Help me out here.
Linda.
Linda, thank you.
No, I didn't have a hard time enjoying it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
because of the characters. None of them are likable.
That doesn't really ever bother me. I don't buy that whole you got to have a likable character to enjoy a film.
Yeah, they may not be likable, but like what makes a great villain great is he might not be likable, but he's entertaining.
No, I don't disagree with that, but I almost feel like everybody's kind of a villain in this movie.
I'm gonna say, but even though you would consider all of these characters unlikable, I think because of that, you find one that you like the most, even though they're all unlikable, like by a normal movie watcher.
You thought they were unlikable?
Yeah, dude. No, there's not a good character in this film besides Linda, who's just screaming the whole time.
I don't feel like the character's actions are going to necessarily dictate how likable or unlikable they are. You might be able to maybe you're thinking relatable and not relatable, but I feel like that's a different thing than likable. I might not relate, but I like the character because they're
You're saying
ridiculous.
none of them were moral, like is what you're saying.
Yeah, none of them were moral.
Like none of the people that you're rooting for in From Dusk Till Dawn are likable.
That's not true.
No, that's not true.
Who?
I'd say Juliette Lewis. I mean,
She's not really the main character. Like you're rooting for the geckos, and the geckos are assholes.
I'm rooting for Tom Savini.
You're rooting for Sex Machine?
He's likable. He's actually the most likable in that movie.
He is. Certainly is. I was devastated when he became a vampire. I said no.
I don't know. I loved that film, and I always rooted for the geckos, but the geckos are the bad
but
guys.
but at the same time, like
they're kind of bad.
Who
guys.
were the main characters in this one? I guess the three girls.
Yeah, the three girls.
Like, think about it this way, because I did think about what you're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
What if the film had started off from the point of view of the girl in the car, Linda? What if it was like, instead of it starting off with like these girls beating each other up in the water, it starts off with her and her boyfriend are driving, and then it becomes like then it becomes like kind of like a
horror
horror
movie?
film kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's
no, I
interesting.
agree. I actually relate this a lot to a horror film in a lot of ways. The one that I was wondering if it was influenced or not by later on, because this movie would have influenced it, was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the reason how I got that was, here you have a girl who's taken off to a desert shithole.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Tooken.
Who's taken to a desert shithole where there is a crippled old man who has a vendetta against young girls. There is the not so smart son who's just killing them, just like Leatherface, and then burying them in the backyard. They basically say that. And then you have like the somewhat normal one, but who's okay with the fucking shit that's going on at the house. And like the difference
Which one is that in Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Well,
Maybe I can agree with the location for sure.
I'm not saying like the full on movie is like, but I'm saying there's a lot of similarities to it.
I thought it was, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is like Of Mice and Men. There's the brother that is too dim-witted and stupid to know that he's a danger to those around him. And then there's the good brother that goes along with it because he just does it because it's family. But at the end, he has to kind of like muscle up and kind of like take control of the family.
Yeah.
And that,
I can see that.
it's to kill his brother. But in this one,
Even the gas station attendant giving like away the location of this
He just wants some tits.
of this family is very Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, so it's just, it's like I see the like.
Well, and I'll also say that like the old man, the wheelchair bound man, did remind me of like Drayton Sawyer. Like he kind of had that same demeanor. So
Yeah.
Oh, now you're agreeing. Now he's like, Chris said it, so you said it.
I agreed with that character description.
I don't think you're far off. I don't think you're wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if Toby Hooper well,
let's ask him.
Yeah, let's ask him. Toby?
Toby?
Toby? Are you here? Guys, we don't have Toby Hooper. I wouldn't be surprised if Toby Hooper watched this film and like took some stuff from it.
I think a lot of directors did.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. How do you guys feel about like the empowerment of the female characters necessarily? Did anyone find it hard to watch as far as like them being as evil as they were? I mean, because I try to put myself in like 1965 and like when I watched this movie, I really did. and just like the culture of what America probably was, or what I know of it, and stereotype wise. And I just couldn't help but feel like men were just probably pissed off at this fucking film.
Why?
Yeah, I don't.
Not 1955. You didn't go that far back,
No,
did you?
I didn't go that far back. That was the grandpa in the wheelchair's age. Because here you have very strong female characters dominating men.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously at the time, if you look at Linda and her boyfriend, you can tell who the dominating character is of that relationship. Even though so much to the point where Linda truly believes that her boyfriend is going to make it out of the situation alive, and then he fucking does not.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think there's a very dominatrix vibe to this whole film, and
No, that's what I'm saying. But
right, but one of the things about that fetish is you want to have that control taken away from you. You don't want to be the guy in control. You want to have somebody else doing it. And I would imagine that this film became popular because of that, because of
years after, not at the time it was released.
No, I'm not saying it was a knockout, like it hit the theaters and people flocked to the theaters, but I also don't think there was a lot of people that were like, I mean, I'm sure people said it was a shitty film. I'm sure people said that. But the people that liked it, I'm sure they were like watching it in their basements. I'm sure they were finding ways to sneak into theaters and watching it.
Let's be honest, 65, like there's already
It's
like
like the sexual revolution.
sexual revolution's already like picking up steam. There's a whole bunch of shit going on where people are already kind of getting used to these kind of concepts.
This
and
film
ideas.
got popular in colleges, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, like art house theaters
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
Like, so there was a demand for it. It just wasn't a big demand.
It wasn't mainstream, and that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. It wasn't mainstream. And it's like I look at this movie as Russ Meyer making it for himself. You know what I mean? Because this is something that he was obviously into. If you also later going on into his films as a
I mean, his wife was a curvy pinup model too. You know what I mean? Like this is like, I think you just wanted to. I think he was just like super sexually driven, and like that's
curvy pinup models were nothing new to cinema though. But having them fucking kill people, and steal their money and be evil was.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like as it went on, like again, going back to the exploitation of something like pinup, I feel like was a form of exploitation, but it was still more innocent than what Meyer was doing. Like he was really putting it in your face. You know what I mean? Like he's like, every chick had big boobs, cleavage all over the place, crotch shots all the time. Like, it's just like, it was almost shot erotically, but like also as like an action and comedy as well.
Yep.
So I don't know, but that goes on through his career. That's his
style. Yeah. And then we've talked a lot about style and directors lately, and I definitely see a style there. And I mean, even from other I forgot what her name is. There's a film critic that saw this movie when it came out who is a lesbian, and she bashed this film when it first came out, saying how misogynistic it was. Like,
well, it is,
and all this other things. And you believe it's really misogynistic, or
I think it is. I think in retrospect, you can look back on it. I heard it called an accidental feminist film. And I kind of agree with that a little bit. I don't think Russ Myers was just like, I'm going to give women power. I think he literally was just like, boobs, 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 and he like put it in a film. And he inadvertently tapped into something that maybe some feminists later on, or just anybody in general, any woman in general, might say like, man, that would be kind of cool to like be able to use your sexuality and be in power all the time and be in empowerment and stuff like that. That is, I mean, that's kind of like what a lot of the dominatrix kind of thing is all about, really, right? I mean, it's about a power.
Yeah, and I feel like I partially agree with that, but I also like if it wasn't for the excessive amount of violence that the women were creating, like I mean, if that's not showing some kind of power, like, I don't know what is.
But it's not like a Ripley power. It's not like they're not heroes; they're the villains. So, I mean, to some extent, you could say that they're like the Liliths of the story. Like,
well, but that's also what makes you wonder, because you're like, are they are they the villains? Because there's people doing worse shit in this movie
They
than
kill
what.
an innocent guy for no other reason.
And that almost seemed kind of like
a
an
need for
accident.
speed. That was his only
Like,
sin.
An
Really.
accident. She grabs his
No.
arms and snaps his neck, bro.
No, I know she does, but the other girls are kind of like, I don't know if I'm about that. Like that's
Only the
Rosie's-
blonde one had any kind of issue with it. The other one would go along with anything.
well, she was in love with.
Yeah.
and here's the thing: is with Billy, the blonde, is like Billy's almost more of a snake in the grass, where she's just waiting for her opportunity to get out clean slate. Where I feel like the other two are in full,
I thought I got the impression that Billy was in it because it seemed like some fun to have and to do. But then when shit got serious, she's like, "I ain't about this. I'm out."
I feel like she was using Linda at any point to get her way, but she was never going to fully protect Linda.
Well, there's like
regardless.
There's a whole intro to this movie where somebody's just like, well, women are violent and blah 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 blah, and he goes on to talk about they really ramp up the idea of this fear of like when women decide to get violent and they have a lust for violence just like they have a lust for sex. Like it just becomes this thing. I don't know that Russ Myers was trying to make like a woman empowerment movie.
I
think he
not.
inadvertently did. I just don't know.
I
that
agree.
was his
I agree with you,
main.
Mike. I don't think that was the goal, but I mean that's what he ended up with.
Yeah, I mean, great.
Which is fine. Yeah.
If people find empowerment through this movie, absolutely, that's great. And I understand why his films later become popular, maybe because of that. I can see it. I get it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he's a director was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, well, I think he put women on a pedestal, and that's kind of how I see it. Like in a sense, like he did see them as like sexual beings and objects, but like he also elevated them in a sense as well. Like,
But sometimes that's not always good because if you're talking about equality is not about taking a person or even any sex of or any gender and saying this is the pinnacle.
No, I think there's just like a liberation about it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I definitely agree.
Yeah. So
yeah.
No, I would agree with that too. That there's definitely a liberation in there as far as what was maybe allowed for female characters, even as actresses, to be able to portray. I think that putting them in a villain role, because I definitely agree that like they're the villain, but they're not the only villains in this. There's a ton of villains in this movie.
Yeah, I mean like everyone.
Everyone.
Much. Yeah.
Because someone was saying, I think I had this discussion with Chris that what's the good brother? What's his name? Is it Kurt? Kirk. He's not that great. Like he's portrayed as one of the good guys in this film, but he knows what his father and brother are doing, and he just is okay with it because they're family.
Yeah.
And except for until Linda comes along with.
Well, I think more of that feeling comes from maybe he feels guilty or responsible and needs to take care of his father who's in a wheelchair, and then unfortunately his brother is not completely there, so there's basically two kids that need to be taken care of, so he's basically stuck there. I agree that maybe he definitely should have stepped in and said something sooner, but he's still not. I still feel like he is the best character in terms of moral standing in the entire film.
Oh, out of the group, yes, definitely.
Out
I
of
agree
the
with that.
family?
No, out of the entire film.
Yeah.
What about the teenager?
Well, Linda's
She doesn't even have any role, any room to really.
She's just so innocent.
She doesn't have any room to really act or have any kind of a character. She's just kind of the
victim.
the panicked victim the whole time. She's in shock the whole film.
I mean, she does stand up at some. I mean,
at the end.
At the end, she
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, she conquers her demon.
I
So
don't know,
to speak.
going back to Kirk. I want to make. I do think that, like, Of Mice and Men wouldn't have been a weird book to try to take the story from because it was a popular book even at this point in time. But I mean, I have to imagine he took it from that because he's just like George.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is like the type of dude that's like, yeah, I understand that my family's messed up, but like, what are you gonna do? It's family. You know what I mean? You gotta take care of family, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how he came off to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to put your mindset in 1965, I mean, Family Unit was a little more important
It's
and
really
stronger.
family
bond.
unit out in the middle of the fucking desert.
What do you guys think makes this a cult film?
I think it's a combination of the fast cars, the the gorgeous, scantily clad women, and they're in the dominant villainy role. So I think that overall is like an influence on films, and it's probably a pretty amazing thing when it first came out.
Chris?
Yeah, I would say just, take the title, Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill. It's like you're getting everything in that title that you're getting in this film. You're getting, like Kyle said, the fast cars, you're getting the beautiful women, and you're getting the violence. And I think, 1965, that was a pretty interesting combination to see.
Mike?
Yeah, I think a lot of it does have to do with the sexual overtones that this film was trying to portray. The idea of women in power, I think, is a really big thing.
Yeah.
And violent women in power, like bad women, like bad women. Like that I think is that would strike a chord, because I don't think that there were a lot of films that were doing that at this time. I think there were, women were villains in films, but they're always kind of like passive villains. Like even like a Lady Macbeth was they hint to it that she's kind of in control, but she's still in the background. These women are like bigger than life,
like ruthless.
Well, yeah, I mean bigger than
yeah. I think Chris nailed it with that term, is ruthless, because I mean you look at the entire collection of film noir, like almost 9 times out of 10, the enemy or the bad guy, the villain, was a woman,
but like a demure villain.
But she was still villainous in like the pieces she played and how she got all everything to fall into motion and to fall into play for her. But she was like, like prim and proper while holding a gun, and these women are just a little more raw.
Yeah.
You guys have a favorite character? Least favorite character?
I liked who did Haji play? What's her name?
Rosie.
Trying to figure out if she's Italian or not.
So me
French.
too.
I said Colombian. I don't know.
I don't know.
French. You said it.
She says lines in that movie like she's
French
straight
Canadian.
Straight up
French
Italian.
Canadian.
But I've never heard a French Canadian be like, "It's a good at a pizza pie." Like I've never heard somebody talk.
It sounded Italian at first, but as the film went on, I definitely got more
Yeah,
like
it
there's a
started
French vibe
disappearing.
for sure.
I'm
It
just
did-
wondering
it
if
did
they
start to disappear
wanted
as
her
the
to
film went
play
on.
in Italian, and then all of a sudden they like lost it halfway.
Like,
through.
She was the character I liked the least.
Really?
Really?
I
Yeah.
kind of liked her because she was the only one that had any real like emotional connection. I mean, I guess you could say Linda to her boyfriend, but
she was in love with.
she was in love.
Varla.
Like she was in
Yeah.
love, and the only reason she was going along with it is because she was in love with this girl, and like it was an unrequited love that was never gonna happen.
Yeah.
I just feel like her performance was like, there's just a lot of glaring.
And that's something I want to talk
a lot
about.
of
Like,
glaring glances.
was homosexuality between women? Was that something that was
taboo, dude?
That had to be a pretty
Yeah, very
taboo thing
taboo,
to show a woman that her main driving force was not just like an infatuation with women. I feel like that's been seen before, but this was a sexual attraction and a want to be with this person.
Right.
That was well established.
Yeah.
Definitely a taboo. I would say I'll go next. Because I feel like I might get some pushback on this. Maybe not. I would actually say that the old man is my favorite character.
I don't know. The one that was the child molester.
He's a decent actor.
No.
Like,
I honestly thought he was the best actor in the film, and that's the reason why I say he's my favorite character. And you knew his motivation throughout the whole film.
Yeah,
it was clearly defined.
He was clear. He was
Sure
clear.
was, but-
Yeah.
Clearly and grossly defined. Don't get me wrong. He's disgusting and gross, but it's clear why he has these
motivations.
Yeah.
Did you guys say urges?
I was gonna say urges.
No, let's not use that. term.
Mine. I'm gonna pick two, but I'm gonna go bland on this one. Varla. I mean, she's like really the face of the movie. I would say
Without a doubt.
Satana. Her look is great, and I like her attitude. I think she pulls it off well.
That's my thing with her, though, is I feel like she is very bland throughout the movie, and it mostly relies on her look.
No, I don't. I actually
don't think
want to
so?
disagree with that.
I think she's pretty good. dude.
There is one line that actually really stands out that she points out, and it's when the brother is like he tries to be the hero or something, and she kind of criticizes him and like, look at you defending a rapist and da 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 da, and like here she is like one of the worst human beings on the face of Earth right at this point in time, but she has the ability to point out the hypocrisy
right
in a situation. Like she unabashedly evil, but at the same time, like recognizes that
She's the
and says,
brains.
like, you're the idiot. You're the one. Like, at least I'm the one. Like, yeah, I pick a choice. I picked a path, and I went that way. You know, when she's talking to what's his name? Oh God, I forgot. Kirk. Right. I'm sorry. Like when Kirk is trying to be the hero, she's quick to point out that like who you saving? Who are you saving? Like,
Definitely.
this guy's a rapist, for Christ's sake. I mean, I may be a murderer, but I'm not. Like it's an interesting thing that she is able to do, and the only character that seems in control of the whole cast in that way.
I thought honestly that scene, I'll agree with you. She was. I thought the way she delivered that whole scene was fantastic. The rest of the movie, I'm gonna agree with Cody. She's kind of bland for me.
Okay.
Like Billy, I thought was more interesting of a character.
I was gonna say that was my second choice.
That's probably my favorite. I gave him the one I didn't like. So Billy's the one I did like.
Because Billy is playing both sides, and that's what I think is more.
She's playing her side.
Exactly, which is playing both sides because she's trying to figure out a way out of every situation and be cool and unscathed.
She's also boy crazy. And gets distracted by that easily.
Is that why you hate her, Chris?
No, I like her. She's one of my favorite characters.
You hate her because she's boy crazy. See, that's typical 1965 thinking, Chris, right there.
Yeah.
Can't even just let a woman be sexually free, Chris.
Oh yeah, I can.
Doesn't even want him driving cars now, huh?
I know, huh? Probably shouldn't allow him to vote, huh? Old man in the wheelchair, Chris.
Oh no, I was on the girls' side the whole time. I picked sides.
I picked sides. Anyone have any favorite scenes?
You know what? The only scene that I thought was that I thought was just like clever writing on the part of the filmmaker was at the end when she hits his wheelchair and you find out where the money was hidden the whole time. I was like, that's pretty good.
Actually,
This motherfucker's been sitting on it the whole time. Literally sitting on his fortune.
I'll pick my favorite scene, the one right after that when she hits the brother with the car.
Oh yeah,
that was
good.
actually.
And he pushes.
It was a moment where that scene's real. Actually, you know what? Changed my mind. You're right. That scene. I do like the scene where he gets hit because it did make me go, ooh, like, you know what I mean? Like, for really kind of cheap effects to do that, it did kind of give me the impression that he got, like, there was an impact there.
Yeah, but the second part of that, what you were just getting to.
That's a really tense scene.
That's a
like,
cool scene.
Between where he's trying
like
to push
fucking
this
pushing
car.
the car away and holding it back, and it's digging itself in
It's
the
like
dirt.
so
It's fucking awesome.
it's effective.
It
It's
was
like
very effective.
because they probably just had that shit neutral and were just kind of pushing it towards him, and he was holding it back.
No, he was actually holding that shit.
No way.
I'm going to go with the scene that you guys were actually just talking about, which what I thought was probably the most dramatic scene in the film when the old man and the brother are chasing the girl, Linda, out into the desert. And he gets like the old man gets out of the car and is like crawling towards her.
Yeah.
Dude, I was so fucking grossed out and so like creeped out from that. See, I was like, please someone get there and stop them.
Yeah,
please
he was just
someone
dragging
there.
himself towards her.
I thought it was so well acted and just so well done. Even when the brother breaks down and freaks out and like, I thought it was just so well done.
I did think
I was really into it.
that brother, what's the tough brother's name?
Vegetable.
The vegetable.
Vegetable? That was his actual name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually liked him as an actor overall in this entire film. I thought he played what he needed to play well, and even the scene where he's asked to remove the knife from Billy's back. I thought that was a really tense, very dramatic, and well-acted scene.
You're right.
I love that scene because they made him out to be an idiot, but not stupid enough that he didn't get poetic justice.
Yeah.
You want your knife? And he's like, "Ooh, you meant want it in her chest." Like, it's like.
Yeah, I thought that was a great scene.
And when he was like kind of breaking
that's
breaking
a real
down,
redeeming
like,
character towards the end.
When he was breaking down, I felt sad. I was sad.
Yeah,
I'm like,
going back to that saying that nobody has any redeeming qualities, it's hard for me to actually criticize the brother because he's vegetable. Like, it's hard to say.
It's hard
because when you look at somebody saying they don't have any redeeming qualities or they're evil, it's usually because it's consciously, that decision to be evil has been consciously made, which makes somebody evil.
Let me ask you this question though: is it because he has lines? Because you can say the same thing about Leatherface.
Thank God you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Can I just say? That's exactly what I was going to just say right now.
Yeah.
It's like, to go on Cody's point, like, isn't Leatherface just a complete moron that just goes along with whatever his family wants?
Yep.
Yeah, but he's not. The vegetable is not the same level as Leatherface. Vegetable, that scene where he takes a knife and stabs the girl because he knows what she did, is a redeeming quality.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, that's a good point. I wouldn't see Leatherface doing something like that.
No, he would never fucking do that.
Oh, he did it. He did it.
He would lick the blood off the knife and then continue cutting.
Obviously, you haven't seen the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Nobody has
the
because
newest
it doesn't
one.
matter.
It's fucking terrible.
Yeah,
it's fucking terrible.
Does
but
he
it's
have a redeeming quality?
Yeah, it's like that. It's
They give the backstory on him.
They give a backstory on him. We'll talk about it off
We'll
air.
talk about that next
We'll get to
episode
it.
when we never cover that film.
And I want to ask you guys this final question because I'm actually interested to see what you guys think. I say hell no, and I am fully against this.
Oh, you're already preloading our opinions here.
But
Thank you.
there has been talk of Quentin Tarantino directing a reboot of this movie
a while.
For a while. now.
I honestly wouldn't have a problem with it, and I kind of feel like he did with Death Proof. He kind of he captured a lot of that tone and mood of this film in that one, putting the women in power, the fast cars, the same. It was kind of like his song story to that era of filming.
And I agree.
I'd have no problem with it.
And I agree with that. My only thing is I'm not a big fan of Death Proof, and I think that Russ Meyer ended this movie correctly with the way it ended, where he did not with Death Proof. I think his ending in Death Proof was.
What do you mean, the women should have died in Death Proof?
I 100% believe that because it gives. Yeah.
Why why in Death Proof would you want the women to die? They didn't do anything.
Yeah, they're not bad guys. They're not bad guys in Death Proof.
There's no reason for them to die.
He didn't go far enough.
Well, I personally wouldn't mind seeing him direct it, but I would just as soon give it to like another like indie director or something.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is this a fan thing? Is this like a thing where like fans want him to do it, or
I don't know.
No, I think he wanted to do it.
He wanted to do a remake.
He did. He wanted to.
He's never done really technically a remake. He's done
Wasn't
films
Jackie,
that damn
Jackie
real.
Brown?
Huh?
Wasn't Jackie Brown a remake?
Not really.
No, it wasn't. It was just it was an opus.
I mean,
to
all of his films are like remixed to some extent.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But
Well,
I mean,
yeah, they're very very
heavily
borrowed from what's the word?
Other films?
Yeah.
He's credited on IMDb for the reboot of Faster Pussycat, and it's been in pre-production or development since 2009.
There you go.
So
there it is. It's gonna have an
So
day
he
now.
probably just owns the rights to it. I think the Weinstein Company is attached to it, according to IMDb. So
wasn't he attached to Old Boy too?
probably.
Yeah, he's been attached to a lot.
That's a Spike
of
Lee
things.
joint, my friend. That's a Spike Lee joint.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but didn't he have a heavy hand in?
I don't see him ever. I see him maybe doing like this style film, but he already has. Death Proof is. You know what, Cody? After watch this movie, I would argue you go back and rewatch Death Proof.
I will go back and rewatch Death Proof.
It doesn't quite have the same
Nope.
mood to it, though.
Does not. All right, guys, we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
What are you trying to do? Make it a short day? Leave the juice alone. We got a lot to do yet. Look at you, you're already stoned. Yeah, that's right. I'm drunk. And it feels good, Rosie. That's why I do things. To feel good. I can turn myself on 12 different ways. But you've only got one channel. And your channel's busy tuning in outside. You really should be AM and FM. You one-band broads are a drag. You're a fool. You're bagged out with sauce.
For a $45,000 budget, which I don't believe is much even in 1965 for a film, they fucking stretched the shit out of it in this movie with a lot of trick camera shots, which I was pretty impressed with. The cinematography is fucking amazing.
Yeah, I liked all the car driving scenes. I thought those were shot really well and really gave a sense of speed.
Yeah,
to the cars, so.
even when it's just people sitting in the car and they're shaking it.
Yeah.
They're just shaking the car. It still felt like the way it was cut and edited, it still felt like they were going fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely did. If you're a lover of car films, this is definitely one to check out.
Oh, definitely. And I think that a lot of the framing too is just very interesting. The way that he framed shots and the way that they framed
shots. Sorry.
The way the shots were framed.
The way that the framing of the shots that were framed.
Dialogue between characters and how
those were framed.
They were like standing in certain places was...
No, you're right. Like there was a lot of unique angles. I don't think it was just like static or straight on. A lot of time there was a lot of up angles to make the people seem bigger.
Yeah.
A lot of movement, I felt like, to the shots. So... I enjoyed the cinematography. I thought it felt pro to me.
It did. Felt very pro.
Pro status.
And then...
Great addition to the conversation,
Thanks, Mike. And then I was a big fan of the soundtrack also. I thought the score was great.
Yeah, a lot of jazz. It was
That
jazz.
was the only thing I was just kind of like, it was eye rolling.
Was it? I feel like that was like.
I felt like it fit perfectly.
Why did you eye roll?
I don't know, man. It just felt like it didn't have it didn't have any character or soul to it. Like it didn't feel like it was fully encompassing or representative of the film and the world that he was creating. It kind of, to me, just felt like he went to a stock sound library and was like, okay, I'll pick that.
It had that real porno sound to it.
It wasn't even that porno sound. It's not.
It was no La La Land. You know,
No.
it really didn't establish jazz.
It's a fun excuse to bring that up again, huh?
I liked it. I mean, I feel like it fits, and it's a staple of his to use that style of music. But
yeah,
sometimes it just felt thrown in there, just like we need music in this part, and it just pick one from the pile. But
yeah, that's for the most part. I totally 100% could appreciate the theme song, which that's always great when
they have a theme song.
A song has the name of the film in it, but all the other stuff, like I said, it just kind of, it felt like, quite honestly, I could probably go on my computer and pull up my stock soundtrack library, and I'll probably find every song from this film in there.
Can we talk about Russ Meyer as a human being to some extent?
Sure.
I don't know much
I
about
don't know
him.
that much.
Is that
either.
technical?
You don't?
Is that technical?
Not really. No.
It's kind of technical. I guess there is something called the Russ Meyer archetype, which is these women like very busty, very big, very strong.
He created an archetype
that and I actually heard this story. I don't know if it's true or not, but that he so needed women to have big breasts in his film that he would commonly shoot women in their first trimester. He would look for women in their first trimester because that's when their breasts would grow really big.
Interesting. No, I did not know that.
I mean, it obviously leaked into his own life. He only dated very buxom women.
Buxom.
Yeah.
That's a word.
Yeah.
It's a good word.
It's true.
You don't hear it enough in life.
No, not since the 40s.
Yeah.
Buxom.
But yeah, like he was an interesting character. I thought you would have more to say on this, Chris.
No, I don't. I don't
maybe
really.
Had a book, like maybe his autobiography or something.
No, if he probably has one, I just haven't read it. Like I enjoy his films for what they are, like, and I get his whole thing, like what he's trying to do. And yeah, I think it does come from his own personal taste, obviously with most filmmakers.
Yeah.
He just happened to be really upfront and in your face about it. Like he wasn't hiding it.
Not like that Quentin Tarantino with those feet.
Oh, dude, how does he
just say it?
How does he deny his feet fetish all the time, but his feet is like his boobs?
I think they are.
They are.
I think they are.
I
would agree with you there, Cody.
The one thing that I kind of had a problem with, I will say, is the fight scenes. If we're gonna get on,
you mean
technical
the
things.
you mean the choreography involved in that?
Yeah, the nun.
Yeah,
of like, hey, let's just grab each other and roll.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was just rolling and a lot of chops.
What's up with the karate chops?
That was a 60s thing. That was a 60s thing, dude.
Just
Kung
throwing
Fu
judo
was in.
chops left and right.
Here's the thing. I took martial arts.
Never learned a chop, did you?
For a while. Chopping is not something that you do a lot of. Like if you watch MMA, you don't see a lot of dudes doing like hiya chops and stuff like that.
You see a lot of chops in MMA. I've been watching
you
MMA
you don't even see a lot of chops in like a Bruce Lee film.
No, you see zero chops because he was completely totally opposed to that stupid.
Because
concept.
chops are not really like a thing. But that's her only move. Straddling and chopping.
I appreciated it, even though they were kind of cheesy and like not choreographed. Like you had chicks basically rolling around fighting dudes.
Well, that was the. Well, I think that was the point of it. Was kind of like oh man, this is gonna sound so fucking weird, but like just like if you're surfing the web for adult entertainment, you may come across like the wrestling videos.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
And like
I haven't.
You never heard of
I'm
that?
not gonna lie to you. I've never heard of this.
It's a genre of porn. It is literally
wrestling.
Where like it's
it doesn't
just,
surprise me.
It's just straight up like chicks wrestling dudes and dominating dudes in the same fashion.
Okay.
It is a genre of porn. It's probably been around forever.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, since the 65.
So is there like any sex involved? Or they're
It's just
wrestling.
It's just wrestling.
Huh.
That doesn't surprise me. I heard sneezing. Okay, if you go on YouTube. No, I'm not joking about this. If you go,
is this all making it in the episode?
Yeah, it's gonna make it in the episode. You're damn right it is. If you go on YouTube, there are videos of people sneezing, and I guess that's a thing because like the idea of it behind it is like it's a build up and then a release. Like that's how I was.
Bro, is that like the balloon pop videos?
It's very much like the balloon top, like the tension with a release, like with a release. Apparently gets people off.
People get off on cake fart videos, dude.
Never heard of that one.
You've never heard of cake farts?
I've heard that. Yeah, seen it. Unfortunately,
let's rate this film. we're going dark.
All right, let's rate it. What do you want to rate it?
Cake farts.
Okay, how many cake farts?
How many cake farts you got in this film, Chris?
I'm just gonna rate it chops.
Chops.
Right. Very topical.
All right, let's go with. I'll go first. Why not? I'm going to give this movie 4 chops. There's things I don't like about it, but I was enthralled with it the whole time, and I could not look away. Fast-paced film. Action's enjoyable. Dialogue is enjoyable, like both comedically and seriously in a weird way. And then just from a technical standpoint, like I was locked in and I was really, really impressed with what they were able to do with the budget and obviously the crew that they had. This is definitely one that I will own. I will track this down and I will own this film. I think this is definitely worth a watch for anybody who's just a film fan. So 4.
Yeah, it's your job to direct who's next.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it right now, and I'm going to pick Kyle!
Awesome. Russ Meyer, first time I have seen any of his films, and I'm going to give this one a 3. I'm not going to say it's completely, totally middle of the road. I enjoyed the film. There's some stuff in it I didn't like, some stuff I found groan-worthy. I already pointed out the music I thought a little distracting at times, but I liked the film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. It wasn't one of those movies that I feel like really, truly needs like a well-designed and well-thought-out plot and story arcs and shit. It's just kind of here's some shit happening, and it's enjoyable. So I liked it. I thought, it was okay. 3. There you go.
Yeah, it's okay. Mike?
I am also going to give this a 3. I don't think in its objectively looking at it as a film, I don't think it's a great film. I think it's slow in some places, like, plot's a little all over the place, but I mean, it gets there. But its influence, I feel like on films later on is undeniable. Like, there are things that I saw in this film where I was just like, man, there's like a lot of films that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for this film.
Agree.
I do like the cinematography in this film. I think that goes a bright point on it. And like, I didn't hate the acting. I'm gonna say, definitely a 3. I would have given it like a 2. Just based on like the story. It just was really bad. But no, everything else like its influence on film.
I'm
rambling. At
yeah,
this point.
you kind of are. You brought up a point that I wanted to touch. I wanted to touch on, but I totally forgot to just now. Speaking on the plot and speaking of slow points, there's something funny with like films maybe from this era, or it bleeds a little bit into the 70s too, where the first 15 minutes of the film is just nothing.
It was chaff.
It's just like
I didn't understand.
Here's some white noise, and then the story begins.
It's almost like
even the subplot with the race at the beginning, like nothing really happens until they hear the story. They go to the gas station, and then I feel like the film really picks up, and like a story really happens at that point.
Nothing really happens. They kidnap a girl and kill her boyfriend.
It's just scenes, man.
That's like not, I feel like that's not even the first 15 minutes.
No, it's not.
No, that's like 30 minutes.
That's like,
in.
First 15 minutes is them driving and laughing.
Oh, and
exactly.
and wrestling in a goddamn local lake.
That's all you need for the first 15.
Quarry.
Chris?
I'm gonna give this a 4 as well. I do agree that there are some slow moments and a lot of repetitive shots that happen in this film. But ultimately, like, I love films like this. Like, I look at it as like a badass chick kind of action movie for the mid 60s, and did kind of take a weird, bizarre, twisted turn with the whole family out in the desert. And I think the dialogue's hilarious. I mean, it's very like obvious, shoved in your face, like one-liners, but at the same time, like, that makes it entertaining for me. I pretty much liked all the characters, even though you weren't supposed to really like them. The only one that really got on my nerves was Linda. And I think that was the point anyways. She was the victim. So, but yeah, overall, this film's like iconic, and it, definitely influenced a slew of directors. I know we've brought John Waters up a couple times, but he's definitely highly influenced by Russ Myers and by this film in particular. So, and then Tarantino, obviously, and probably a slew of other directors. So yeah, I appreciate this film, and I'm glad it exists. And a 4.
All right, guys, that is our show for this week. Make sure you leave us a review on social media. Well, not on social media, on iTunes.
You can do that too, though.
Yeah, you can do that too. Why not? Sure.
Just hit us up and say, hey, you know what? You're cool.
And you can do that at cultfilm_review on Instagram and Twitter. You can also do that on Facebook. You can follow Kyle
You can follow me on Instagram at cultfilm_Kyle.
You can follow Chris
Cultfilm.
Dude, seriously?
_Chris on Instagram.
God.
And you can follow Mike
You always get the half chub.
That's okay. I'm all right with that. With what he gave, with the amount he gave you guys,
Yeah.
I'm kind of good with that.
We went rock hard on both of us. You got
can
the half
follow
chub.
me at Mike Salustio on Twitter.
And you can follow me on Instagram at VHS Collect. All right, guys, that's our show for this week. Just remember, if you're going to join a cult, make sure they watch good movies.